Yeah, and actually, I feel like, Eddie, this is going to be kind of an exclusive for you because I haven't talked about it on a podcast. I've talked about it on my personal YouTube channel for my members only. So it's a handful of people who have really heard the story. And I've been scared to share it a little bit, but I think it's really important to hear um, because I think there might be other people out there that are going through something similar.
Hey everybody, this is Eddie Babbage, founder, CEO of Timeline Genius, your host here of the Wedding Industry Insider Podcast. I'm back with another awesome interview. Very excited for this one. I'm here with Gabby Pinkerton. Gabby is the founder of Cause We Can Events, a hospitality and experience focused wedding planning boutique based in Nashville, Tennessee. Gabby, thank you for being here and doing this interview today.
Thanks, Eddie. I'm so happy to be here with you. I was literally just saying to my team today, I'm like, we are approaching the end of Q1. I cannot believe that we're there. I'm still goal setting for 2026. What is going on?
I know it's so crazy. I feel like the year, I was just talking about this with a friend of mine. Yeah, the time, it just flies. And just to give people a quick heads up here, Gabby, I'm going to let them know what we're going to be talking about. One thing that we're going to talk about, and I'm really excited, and grateful in advance that you're even opening up about this, is a critical inflection moment you had in your business that shifted the way that you're thinking and approaching all that you do. We're also going to talk about one of the most valuable, I think, concepts that underlies branding and positioning. But before we do all of that, I would love it, Gabby, if you could, in your own words, give our audience a little bit more of an intro to yourself, like just how you got to be where you currently are in the industry.
Yeah, for sure. I'm actually born and raised in Montreal, Canada. So my first language is French, which is important to note because when I first started my wedding planning business, I thought I was so clever by putting on my business card that I was a bilingual event planner, French and English. And it did me no good because I moved to California and nobody spoke French. So I think that's just a fun story. And I keep that business card actually here on my desk as just a reminder of the humble beginnings. Um, but since then, I've actually evolved the business quite a bit. I have been a wedding planner for now like 13 years. I started way back in college. I volunteered as the kind of event planner for my school's marketing gala. And I loved it so much. Like, I kid you not, Eddie, I didn't eat, I didn't sleep, I didn't breathe, but I ate all of the event planning stuff up. And I decided, this is it. This is what I want to do. And so for years leading up after that, I worked in more corporate events, so nonprofits, other kind of corporate stuff with employers. And then I realized, hey, I can be my own boss. Like, that sounds pretty dang awesome. And I have a family of entrepreneurs. And so that felt really good for me. And launched my business. I called it Cause We Can Events because originally I wanted to do events for causes, where that play on words kind of happened. But lo and behold, it's quite hard to do be a for-profit business and do nonprofit events. It's hard to make money, if I'm being honest. And so I pivoted over to weddings and have been doing that ever since. And I really quite enjoy it.
What an interesting background, Gabby. It's so cool that you found your calling. Um, Talk to me a little bit about, and I think this will come up in another context later in the interview, but tell me how you kind of view in hindsight that shift from your original plan of I'm going to be doing events for causes, nonprofit, to doing the types of events, weddings that you're actually doing. Tell me a little bit more about that shift.
Yeah, I think the events for causes sounded really great. It sounded like I'd be able to give back. It sounded like a feel good type of business. But the reality was that it wasn't paying the bills. Or when I was reaching out to these clients, or clients were coming to me to do events for their cause, they wanted things for free, or I would have to be asking other vendors to do things for free, even if they were paying me. And I found that to be really hard. And I know it's not impossible to build a business like that, but it felt really hard because I was going into this industry brand new. I didn't have many connections. It was hard for me to ask vendors to do things for free when I hadn't brought them any business. And so I think it made me realize it's a big, you have to be connected, you have to know a lot of people, and you have to find ways to support their business in other way, shapes, or form. So now what I've done instead is I do have a strong for-profit business where, we charge regular wedding rates, but we're able to give back. So I volunteer, I do pro bono work for a few nonprofits and for sometimes some other small corporate events that are just getting off the ground. Like I'm doing this one, actually a podcasting conference that's new to Nashville, and it's women only. And I enjoy the concept of it so much that I was like, you know what? I'm going to volunteer as your event planner. I think this will just be so fun for me to be a part of. And that's kind of how I found ways to give back, as opposed to making my whole business a cause in itself.
I love that. I think that the whole sort of idea behind business, this is just my sort of 48-year-old reflection, is this weird sort of like tango between having a vision and planning and goal setting, like all of that stuff that we can control, balanced with the fact that like there's so much about this world that we don't control and so much that we don't know. So you get out on the path, you start doing the thing, and then you adjust, but I think you just have at multiple points in your career, based on the conversation we've had so far, I see that theme kind of playing itself out. Do you still get that thrill, that thing that just was like, I'm playing, I'm not even working, that you got from that first event planning experience? Are you getting that today, if I may ask?
Ooh, I like this question because you're right. I think if you ask this question to people who have been in the industry for over 10 years, a lot of people are saying in the wedding industry, and you'll have to tell me if you found this, but people are saying
Mm-hmm.
they're burnt out, right? Like they're
Yeah, sure.
feeling very burnt out, especially post COVID. We were all
Mm-hmm.
put through the ringer.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what I've done, Eddie, is I've decided to avoid that because I felt that for a quick second, to avoid the burnout and to truly love and still get excited by events, is I max out the number of events I take on personally to 5 per year, and I pick my favorite. And I think that's
Mm.
a perk of being the business owner. And I have felt guilt for that in the past because I've thought, well, I should take care of my team first. But actually, and this will go down the whole story about everything that
Yep.
changed my business,
Yep.
but part of that realization that I had is like, hold on, I built this business to support my life, not necessarily to support other people. But if I get to support other people while doing it, that's a bonus. But I need to put myself first. And so I get to pick the events that I want to do first. I get first dibs on them to make sure that I'm still enjoying everything that I do. And once that does not become fun for me anymore, that's when I need to really take a step back.
That is super cool. And you anticipated one of the follow-up questions that I would have asked, which is, well, that sounds like a luxury that a lot of people listening might say in their minds, like, I don't get to just do 5 events, but you've built a team out that allows you to service, so we will definitely get into all of that. While we're on this particular topic, um, I have to ask because it doesn't sound like what you'd usually hear is like, well, this is what's acceptable. Somebody could be listening and say, well, wow, that's kind of selfish, Gabby. Like you're putting yourself ahead of your team. I actually don't see it that way because you are, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, but like as a business owner, I'm like, there's so much that you are fundamentally responsible for. And there's so many ways in which I'm sure you are prioritizing your team ahead of your own interests. You have to be selfless as a leader in so many ways. But in this one important respect, you're like, but I do want to do the work that I'm doing. But tell me a little bit more about that. And do you get any blowback from your team around that? I'm
Mm,
assuming no, but I got to ask.
that's a great question. I think it's a couple things. So I would also be curious to know from people that you've talked to in the past, the men versus women situation. There's
Mm,
women, I think we do have a lot of internal guilt about
mm-hmm,
putting ourselves first, right? And I think that comes
mm-hmm,
through all different
mm-hmm,
ways of life and business or personal. So that's something that I've always felt a little bit internally, is being the caretaker. Also leading into, we are somewhat all people pleasers to a certain extent, right? Like if we're in this hospitality industry, we've got to enjoy pleasing people. But at what point are we pleasing other people so much that it's a detriment to our own well-being, our own building of our business? And I learned it the hard way. I really did. And I tell you, Eddie, like when everything happened in 2024, it was a slap in the face, and I thought to myself, like, okay, I can't keep going in the way that I'm going,
mm-hmm.
in paying other people three times more than what I am making as the owner, as the creator of this business, as the person that's bending over backwards to make sure they have the time off when they want it off, and they have the best weddings, and I'll take the scraps. How can that be okay? And so I think I finally put my foot down and for lack of a better word, cleaned house. Like I just was like, we've got to start over here. And I will make the rules. In the sense that I will put the following guidelines down on how I want to move forward and what I need to be my best self and to be the best boss for the rest of this team. And whoever is on board with this, come. I would love to have you on the team. But that goes all the way to say that when I was putting my new job descriptions out, I was very clear about everything. I was an open book. And I said, here's how these things are going to go. And if you'd love the experience and you think this would be fun for you to do as a job and work alongside me, amazing. I will be there. I will support you. I will be your cheerleader. But I've got to put my oxygen mask on first.
I love that so much, Gabby. And we're about to get into this, but have you ever heard of a book called Profit First?
Yes, yes.
Have you read it?
Mike McCullough.
Yes,
I
yes.
have,
Have you?
yes.
So what you're saying is it's not even just wedding planners and wedding pros. So God bless wedding planners. I just have a soft spot for people that are people pleasers because I kind of am one myself, and I just feel like I love it when somebody is conscious of like whether or not they're stepping on somebody else's toes, and they want, generally speaking, as their baseline orientation to the world, we want everybody to be happy. Like that's just, I'm like, God bless people that have that orientation to life. Um, but yeah, I think as a business owner, it's a freaking like epidemic that like we're not naturally inclined to like take care of ourselves, like to like there are so many, and this is explored in depth in that book, but like people that are like not paying themselves and just giving all of the money to the business. So with no further delay, I guess, Gabby, can you talk to me about this profound sort of experience that you had in your business where you realized I have to make changes? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, and actually I feel like, Eddie, this is going to be kind of an exclusive for you because I haven't talked about it on a podcast. I've talked about it on my personal YouTube channel for my
Mm-hmm.
members only. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
handful of people who have really heard the story, and
Mm-hmm.
I've been scared to share it a little bit, but I think it's really important to hear. Um, because I think there might be other people out there that are going through something similar. So,
Yes, on all counts, Gabby, and I'm grateful in advance for your transparency and openness. And yeah, that's where the real magic and juice lies in the things that like when we're being authentic and sharing, because I know this is going to resonate with people. Anyway, I'll let you
yeah,
proceed.
no, I get it. So, I mentioned, I think before we started recording, in 2016, I did a rebrand. Granted, my business was young. I had only started 3 or 4 years prior. I did a full rebrand because we did this big wedding out in the Utah desert at a really cool place called Under Canvas. And they do glamping, and you can buy out the property for 3 nights, and it's like this whole festival of a wedding that we do. And I loved it so much, and it was epic. It was a six-figure wedding, and at the time, 100,000 plus on a wedding was a lot in 2016. And so I did a full rebrand, and it took off. Like, we were crushing it. People were coming to us, and we were selling, 10,000 to, I think the most we had charged at the time was like $22,000 on a planning package. And that's a lot from anywhere from 2016 to 2022, perhaps. And so I had some team members. We had everything from kind of like support, more admin people. And then we had a few lead planners that were on the team. And some were on salary, and some were hourly, just depending. But there had been some that had been with me from the beginning, and I was like, you know what, they deserve to be on salary alongside me. And the numbers kind of just came out of nowhere. And we
Mm-hmm.
decided that the structure was going to be like a base salary plus commission, based off of whether they were going to bring in a lead for us, whether they were going to be lead planner on it, whether a variety of made up, like if I'm thinking about it now in retrospect, made up situations. And so, fast forward, we go with this structure for a few years, maybe like 3 years, this structure is in place. And 2023 rolls around, and I'm finding that we're still booking six-figure weddings, but the lead planners are booking more and more of their own, because the goal was that I was going to step away. Like, I wanted to take on less. So I was giving them more work. That
Mm-hmm.
meant that their end of year salaries were much higher because they were taking on more leads. They were bringing in some leads, which was great, but their commissions were getting bigger and bigger, plus this base salary. And in 2024, I got my P&L back. And I had had a bookkeeper for years, and nothing was really necessarily flagged. There was no trajectory that was saying otherwise. But in 2024, I looked at that P&L, and I was negative $7,000 at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And I just about stopped breathing and realized, how can that be? That's not reflective of necessarily what's in the bank account, but it means that we have been, and of course, once we looked at the numbers, my um, payroll costs were so high, and my owner pay was something like $24,000. And I'm thinking to myself, how are we making, $250,000 or more, and I'm making $24,000? That can't be. And so um it led to some very hard conversations. Of course, I talked finances with my bookkeeper, my CPA. We analyzed it. I also consulted with like other wedding pros and planners to say, I need some real numbers here, guys. Like, can you guys share? Are you willing to share? And I think we're living in a community now of wedding planners that and other wedding pros that are very open, because there's no manual for this. How do we know? We can't know. So I had to have some peer-to-peer conversations, and then I had to have some team conversations. And what I ended up having to tell them is saying, hey, we have to go to an hourly structure, because this whole base salary plus commissions is blowing this out of the water. We're not making enough money. This is a salary for a huge wedding planning boutique, or wedding planning company that's way bigger than what we are. And the conversation did not go well with the team members, and I lost them, and I lost like very, very long standing friendships because of this. Um, which was a whole other, piece to the puzzle. Like having friends that are part of your planning business is very challenging and for so many reasons. But yeah, it broke apart really long-standing friendships. But it was the shakeup I unfortunately needed. And so from there, like I said, I kind of cleaned house. Um, and we started over, and I based all my pricing, my payroll, all my numbers off of real data, real structured information, my overhead costs, my fixed costs, my variable costs, my travel fees. Like, here's how this is going to go. And I took some time off that winter, and then I reposted some new job postings and made a very clear description on, like, this is what I'm willing to pay because this is what I can afford. Not because I don't think you're worth more, not because I don't think you can't grow, but I said, based off of my pricing for my clients, the number of hours that's needed, et cetera, this is the hourly rate that I need someone. And I know that's not always going to get me, someone with 10 years experience, but I'm willing to train the right person to come into that job. And I got a ton of applications. I was actually shocked because I was really worried. And got a ton of applications and found I have 2 lead planners right now that are absolute rock stars. They're young, they're excited, they're newer in the industry, but they're super gung ho, and they are thrilled with that hourly rate. And there's room for growth. Um, and we have bonus structures and all these other kind of fun things. But yeah, it hurt when that happened.
As a wedding planner, you know how important it is to create detailed wedding day timelines for your events. But creating your timelines can be a tedious and time-consuming job. Until now. Because Timeline Genius lets you create beautiful, detailed wedding day timelines with ease. And it keeps everything you need on the wedding day in one central place. Here's how it works. First, Timeline Genius saves all your clients, vendors, and venues in your Rolodex, so you don't lose time looking for their information. And when you're ready to create a new timeline, you simply enter the key information for your wedding. Click a button, and voila! Timeline Genius magically gives you a customized timeline for your event, where all the details are laid out and the times are calculated for you. From there, you can easily edit your timeline by adding or deleting items, inserting images, changing font styles, and customizing everything to your liking. You can also instantly shift the times for as many items as you want. And when it comes to your clients and vendors, Timeline Genius lets you give them the highest level of service. You can send them tailored timelines, showing only the items they're involved in. And you can collaborate by inviting them to a mobile-friendly, web-based version of the timeline. You can even set text message reminders to automatically go out on the wedding day. And once you've completed your perfect timeline, you can download it or email it out as a beautifully styled PDF. And that's Timeline Genius, a smart software that will help take your wedding planning to the next level. Start your free trial today.
It's funny you just ended on the word hurt, because I just wrote down hard. And thank you. I know I keep saying this. I'm going to sound like a broken record. Thank you for sharing all of this, because I feel like we live in a very sanitized world where people on social are like, look at my vacation. It's like behind the scenes, like this is where the real conversation and topics, I think, lie. And I also, just from one entrepreneur to another, I know wedding planning is incredibly hard, even though I've not done it firsthand. I've heard so many times, and it's so obvious now, like there's no do-overs, all the pressure. But being a business owner also is really hard. And this is like one of the hardest parts, right? Stepping up and having the kinds of conversations that you had. So just like kudos, and I guess I would just ask, I wasn't expecting you to say, though I'm not totally surprised, that like made the whole team disband and that they were mad at you. I guess people weren't sympathetic to the notion that, like, wait, this economic structure just doesn't make sense to you? Were they just not like, why the anger? I mean, obviously you were reducing compensation, but why did they not just understand where you were coming from?
Yeah, good question. I guess I could have explained better this too. And let's remember, this is my first time going through anything like this. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
as a boss, I've never had situations like this. I've always talked to my employees as almost friend to friend.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so when the downward trajectory was happening in like late 2023, I was starting to see our fall numbers, and the P&L
Mm-hmm.
was always getting lower and lower and lower, whereas fall
Mm-hmm.
is usually where we collect a lot of payments and numbers are showing quite high. But the payroll was so high that I was like, oh my gosh, we're never going to catch up. And so I started having early conversations with the team and saying, hey, I'm looking into this a little bit more because
Mm-hmm.
something's not right. The math
Mm-hmm.
isn't mathing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about it. And we had
Mm-hmm.
some conversations. Um, and then I had to remove the team from the financial conversations and talk to my bookkeeper and my CPA because I don't want to be influenced by the team by saying, well,
Mm-hmm.
what if you cancel your Canva Pro
Right.
account? Like, that's not it. That's
Right.
not it.
Right.
And so I had to have the real tough conversations with the finance team. And once we realized, hey, listen, it's payroll and the structure that
Yeah.
you have them on doesn't even allow you to catch
Yeah.
up, no matter how much you charge your client,
Mm-hmm.
this isn't going to work. So I, I had to have those conversations one on one. And I guess looking back, I don't know. I don't know how else I could have approached it. I think the feedback that I got from one of them was they felt it was out of left field and they felt really blindsided. Although I think back and I'm like, we had a couple preemptive conversations about the trajectory.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then I did have a call and say, hey, here's what I'm doing to take action on this.
Yeah.
I don't know if that person wanted me to ask them for their thoughts, but it wasn't really the place. It wasn't
Right.
up to
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I,
So
I'm
that's
so
hard.
empathetic. I'm Gabby. You're talking to somebody that has founded 3 companies, and you're talking about, like, in my personal experience, that's kind of the most difficult part. There are a lot of really challenging things about building and maintaining companies. What you're speaking to is one of the hardest. And also, and I say all of this because I know that this authenticity that we're putting out is going to resonate with other people because they're in the same boat in a lot of ways. And you're a friendly person, I can tell that, right? Like, so I'm the same way. Like, you form friendships with people. I think there are CEOs that are kind of like more of the sort of like mental image, like, I just care about the bottom line. Up, that person's got to go. Like, that's not me, and I guarantee you it's not most people listening right now. And there is this fluid porous line between business and friendship. And I think in a lot of ways that's good. Like, it's good to have that like collegial vibe with your team. But when the chips are down, you also have to run a business by the numbers. But I feel like, and tell me if this is wrong, on the other end of this very uncomfortable process and experience lies a new version of your company that now feels so much better. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. So actually, a couple things that I had felt going into the tough conversation. I felt like the team was stagnant in the sense that we had all been in the industry for 10 years, more or less,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a lack of energy. And I think we were all feeding off of each other
Mm.
in a little bit of a negative space.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that felt really hard because I wanted to be an uplifter. I'm very much an optimist, but when the rest
Mhm.
of the team feels like every email is a complaint about their client or a complaint about a
Right.
vendor who's not
Right.
doing this or that, it's really hard to continue to uplift. And I was thinking to myself throughout this process, I was like, what would feel really good is just some fresh blood. Like, we just need some young, excited people to help me bring my energy back up and be a better leader for them. But also the other people, it might be time for them to move on to something else. You know, maybe they're going to go out of the event industry. Maybe they're going to pursue something they've been dreaming of pursuing. And in fact, they have gone out to do different things, and I'm rooting for them, you know? But I think the positive side to all of this is, yes, the business got exactly what it needed, which was an influx of new, fresh
Yes.
lead planners that were excited to learn, and we're bringing new ideas. Like, that's the thing. At some point, you get set in your ways, and we don't want to be those old cranky wedding planners that you see in reality TV shows. Like, we want to be fun, and we want to know what does Gen Z want in the wedding planner? We want to bring that to them. So I think it everything works out in the end. You know, it hurt, but it was for the best.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I feel like sometimes life and business and the market, they give you what you need, not what you want. And, we all want to have like that profitable business that we feel great about and things are humming, but sometimes the changes that we need to make, we just wouldn't make them unless we were put in this very uncomfortable experience. I'm sure, and you can speak to this a little bit more. How are you different now, Gabby, as a business owner, as a result of this experience that you've gone through?
Yeah. So I think what we said earlier about putting your oxygen mask on first is this is what I needed to have happen for me to realize that I can't sustain this business and I can't be the leader in this business if I don't start learning now 13 years into it that I need to put my oxygen mask on first. And now every decision that I approach about my team or the business or anything is, first, does it make me happy? Does it something that's going to help me grow? Does it make the business money? Because we're a for-profit business. Our goal in the eyes of the IRS is to make a profit. So we can't take on opportunities that are not aligned with that. And then, of course, like, is this going to be something good for the team? Like, if we implement new software or we go to a conference, or I enjoy, and again, this goes back to people pleasing, but also I think humans, we enjoy making other people happy. I love when my team is vibing and we're high-fiving at events and everyone's super supportive and they're jumping in on how they can better help each other. And they're excited about the next wedding, even though it's busy season. But in order for that to happen, I have to be in a good place, and I have to make sure that we're set financially, that we are set in our, SOPs and all that I'm mentally okay to be here and to support others. So yeah, I'm not afraid to take care of myself first. And I think for such a long time, that was something that people, like you said at the beginning, would maybe even say, you're being so selfish. Well, no, I can't be selfless unless I'm start by taking care of myself first.
That makes so much sense when you think about it, Gabby. And you obviously were exactly right in terms of what I hear in the industry, not necessarily just on podcast interviews, but just in talking week in, week out with other, wedding planners. Everything stops when you burn out, right? When that flame, that light that you're putting out, not just to service your clients, but to bring in business and to build your business, nobody's getting paid if the business owner, quote, burns out. So I really do appreciate that. One other quick thought. I was trying to find a quote by Alex Ramosi. Have you heard of him? He's just a sort of tech slash business entrepreneur. Really,
Yeah.
really insightful guy. He's awesome. Like, get his books, like, they're awesome. But he says hard conversations are so productive and necessary for growth, that he's like, once you start having them and realizing how much value and growth they unlock, you can almost become a little addicted and be like, wait, where's the next hard conversation I can have to like unlock the next? But it's really true. Like, these things like that, the things we most want to avoid doing are kind of the things that are really going to help us the most sometimes. on our path. What would you say, Gabby, to any of those other planners that are out there listening right now, and maybe they haven't hit this, sort of hard truth moment that you encountered, but they have this nagging suspicion that, like, I'm not making what I wish I were making. Like, what would you say to those people that are kind of listening to your experience right
Ooh, that's a good question. I think before perhaps any hard conversation happens, whether it's like a team situation or not charging enough or something like that, I really do tune into my community. Like, I think the wedding community has grown to be pretty dang amazing. And in Nashville, we're super lucky. We have this group called the Nashville Wedding Planners Group, and it's not something that every city has. And we are a very close group of 20, 25 planners. And we talk about this stuff. It's like a secret circle. Nothing can get out. It's, sworn to secrecy. But these are the hard conversations we have with our peers first, to say, hey, I had this situation happen, whether it's a client thing or it's an internal team thing. Let's one of my planners did XYZ and I really don't like how she did that. Have you ever experienced that? Or how would you go about it? And it's just nice sometimes to, first of all, not know that you're not crazy, know that you do have a right to step in and say, that wasn't okay. Here's how I would say it. Or, yes, I did have something like that happen before. Here's how I dealt with it. But then, of course, take your own, twist on it. But yeah, I think it's scary. It took me 11 years to have my first hard conversation in the business, right? But I got to a point that it was that, or the business was going to go under. Quite literally, we were negative. So another year of that and the bank account would have been zeroed out, if we're really talking about it on the financial side. So yeah, I think it's a save yourself kind of situation. Talk to your peers. Don't be afraid to share those tough conversations, because there's no way there's not a business owner that's not going through something hard, right? Or has gone through it and just hasn't shared about it, because who wants to see that on Instagram? I mean, that's not the highlight reel we all double tap on Instagram.
I think some people might double tap it, but I don't think anybody wants to put it out there about themselves. And I think most people are a
Fair.
lot less courageous than you are. When in reality, I mean, I don't think there's anything but good that's going to result from being open about this and processing it aloud yourself and letting other people. But I would, just on a side note, just re-table the idea of that book, Profit First, because from a financial standpoint, and I don't want to keep anybody from reading it, but I'm just going to give everybody the quick reveal here. The radical notion in the book is pay yourself first. Like, engineer for profit before you start spending all of the operation expenses that are going to come up. Like, set aside a percentage, and it can be super small at first, like you won't even miss it. Set aside a percentage for profits and set aside a percentage for what you're going to pay yourself. But I just feel like it's odd, but it's very counterintuitive. Like, that's not the way that most of us have been taught to think about treating our team and our expenses.
Yeah.
There's another sort of line of conversation here, and we may come back to this. I'm just watching the time fly here, Gabby, and I really want to lean in before I let you go on something that you casually touched on, which is you rebranded, you found you had a passion, and you rebranded your company to focus more narrowly on a more tightly defined target market, and it worked out really well. Can you unpack that for me?
Yeah. And I feel like I'm ready to rebrand again, because we evolve, we change. And after this big thing
Yes.
that happened, I feel like
Yes.
I'm a new person.
Yes.
So yeah, I didn't know what I was going to specialize in, because how can you know when you're just starting out a business, right? You maybe have an idea, you like weddings, great. You do weddings, and you decide you don't want to do corporate. That's one thing. But at the end of the day, and I say this to people all the time, if you're just showing a potential client a list of all the things you do as a wedding planner without it looking like you're differentiating yourself in any way, they're just going to compare all of these quotes from wedding
Mm-hmm.
planners and they're going to go off based off price unless you
Mm-hmm.
are speaking directly to them and directly to what they need. So when this happened for me, 2016, got hired to do that big wedding out in Utah, and it was a weekend affair. I mean, we're talking like activities, hikes, yoga. They called it Wedding Cella. And, it was this festival type of thing before they became popular, because they did become a thing after. And I was like, this is so fun. I'm having a blast as a planner. My
Mm-hmm.
clients are, they have a big budget, but they're laid back. They want to have fun. They love being outdoors. And like slowly my wheels started turning and I realized this could be an ideal client. Like this could be that archetype that I'm building that I'm going to call my ideal client. And so sure enough, when I got the photos back from that wedding, it went up on my website so dang fast. And even though I had only done one, I put it that this is what we specialize in. We specialize in festival style, adventurous weddings for laid back couples that love dogs. Like that was literally one of my taglines. And I kid you not, Eddie, I mean, call after call after call, we were getting flown out to all of these different venues that specialized in the glamping stuff. And we ended up going to South Africa. We went to Croatia. We went to Scotland. And then all over the US, we were just doing all these crazy adventurous style weddings that were multi-day. And I was like, holy cow, this is it. I mean, I can double, triple my prices now because I have chosen this niche market that no one else seems to be tapping into right now that I'm specializing in. And it was amazing. And it did what it needed to do for the, I don't know, 6, 8 years that we ran with that. And now I'm slowly realizing like I've matured. I don't want to get dirty so much anymore. I enjoy my creature comforts and a nice hotel room. And so I'm slowly starting to think of what's the next thing? What's the next experience that I want to offer my couples that will be so different than any other wedding planner? So yeah, I'm in that brainstorming mode right now, but I think it's so important to not offer everything to everyone. And I think what was the quote you said earlier?
Yeah, if you're servicing everyone, you're servicing no one. Like if you're marketing to everyone, you're marketing to no one. You know what's funny though, Gabby? I feel like this theme has come up before, and I feel it right here, right in the solar plexus. Like I get it because I've had the head knocks, where it's like, nope, not the right way, nope, not the right way, that have led me to really appreciate. Now, there are plenty of amazing books on marketing that will beat you over the head with this message because every savvy marketer that I know says this very thing. But for some reason, well, not just for some reason, the tendency is to be like, well, I don't want to exclude these people. And I really just want to take as many weddings as I can. So I don't want to rule anybody out. Um, how did you arrive at this insight that you needed to niche down, so to speak?
I think, I mean, gut feeling. I love a good gut feeling, an intuition. Like I felt so fired up by that coming home from that wedding that I just told myself, if it doesn't make me feel like this every time I do a wedding, I don't want it. Like I
Beautiful.
could not picture myself in a ballroom. I don't even wear heels. I don't even think I know how to walk in heels. Like I
Love
just
it.
could not picture that for me. And I knew that I would not be the best planner for someone who said, I want a very glam ballroom wedding. But if you ask me to hike up that mountain so that you can do a sunrise elopement, hell yeah. Like I'm your girl. I will go up there. And so I just wanted to make sure I was doing things that I loved, and I wanted, and I think actually the big thing that I remember someone telling me, and I wish I remembered who it was, but they said, your website should attract the people you want to work with and repel the people you do not want to work
Ah,
with. So
yes.
that was so, so important
Mm,
because I was like, if I'm going to show a big photo of a bride lifting her dress, hiking up a mountain, you know, that glam ballroom bride wants nothing to do with that. So I found it really important to be so annoyingly clear of who I wanted and who I didn't want. That was all I was getting. So it worked.
I love that, Gabby. And it takes a little bit of bravery to say, like, I'm not for these people, even though they still make it through the net and make inquiries, but to be just crystal clear, this is exactly who I'm for and nobody else. I'm not speaking to anybody else because then that person is like, I feel so seen. As soon as they show up to your website, I know that I had a coach. He was a former CMO of a huge internet company. He was like, you've got like a matter of a few seconds for the person who hits your website to have their shoulders slump down and they breathe out and they're like, like I found it. Like just a couple seconds to really make that impression. And what were I think you already spoke to this, definitely already spoke to this some, but just to give a little bit more detail, Gabby, what were the benefits when you did that in terms of your business? Can you just give a little bit more color to that?
Yeah. I mean, I think to your point earlier, like I was nervous about pigeonholing myself because
Right.
my net was nowhere near as wide as it would have been if I said, hey, I take any type of wedding. And so I was like, woof, this is so niche, like
Hmm.
so niche that what if nobody else comes? Like, this is so
Right.
scary. But the opposite happened. I think exactly what you said. And I got this feedback many times. They landed on my website. They didn't have to go further than the homepage. And they said, this is exactly what I've been looking for. And I can't find it
Hmm.
anywhere. Like, this is
Hmm.
it. So I knew in that moment that I had the power to price accordingly. If I am truly a, the concept of supply and demand, if the demand is high and I am the only one supplying this
Right.
niche market, my
Hmm.
price is going up.
Hmm.
Um, and at that point, we were only, I said, we can only offer full service planning on these types of weddings because they're
Hmm.
multi day, they're highly
Hmm. Hmm.
logistical.
Hmm.
So our price per wedding was much higher. It also meant we had a bigger team to come in. There was often a lot of travel, but it allowed us to go to these really cool places, and opened up a lot of doors. Like I think it was a really, really cool experience to have and to enjoy in that time of my life when I was willing to go out and about a little bit more. Now I'm like, I've become such a homebody and love being close to home. Um, but yeah, it really was so neat to see the power of marketing in that sense. Word of mouth would happen. Blogs, online publications were huge for us at that time because every time we did one of these weddings, they were still so unconventional and new that these blogs were picking them up, and allowing us to get promoted over and over and over. Um, yeah, and I mean, I'll be honest, that has slowed down. It slowed down, 2060. So now 10 years later, that trend has slowed. And so we have to start thinking, okay, what is it now? What's next? I think what at the core, what I still love about what we did back then is these experiences were very, like you said at the beginning, were hospitality forward. I love the concept of surprise and delight for our guests. I love that all of our couples are very selfless in the sense that they all want to make sure the wedding is fun for their guests. They don't even mention themselves in our conversations as much as they want the whole weekend to feel really fun for their guests. So the aesthetics, maybe that's what it is. The aesthetics are changing. We're not so much glamping anymore, but we're staying in maybe somewhat a little bit more luxurious accommodations, but we're still having these really fun activities and outings and experiences. Um, and so I'm in the thick of that right now, trying to figure out like how does my website change version 2.0 to evolve with how our clients are also evolving.
I love that. And I'm going to dig in a little bit more to that process. But I also just want to point out a through line, I think, for this whole interview, which is you having the courage and introspective awareness to intentionally craft your business to suit your needs. And I say courage because, again, that's not something that, but like in all of these cases, it's an interesting sort of connection point that you're like, wait, I enjoy this. Let me lean into that. Wait, I need to take care of myself and put my own oxygen mask on financially. So how do I lean in on that? Um, and I think it leads me, and it's interesting too, Gabby, because I thought when I asked the question of how did you arrive at this insight that you needed to niche down, I thought that you would have gone through the path of like just hearing the various marketing pundits, because they'll tell you that, like, if you read books, like people, anybody that knows their stuff about marketing is like, focus, like niche down. But you arrive there in an almost like, I would say, more beautiful way. You're like, how can I be and express my true and authentic self? Which everybody that I come on, if there's the biggest connection point, Gabby, like the secret to success is like tap into like the real you, the unique you, because
Mm-hmm.
nobody can. And then you're not competing on price because people are trying to hire you and there's only one of you. But here's the question that it raises, and it ties very much to the process that you're currently in the midst of. The question that it raises is somebody's listening. They're like, that's great for Gabby. She figured it out back in the day and she found a way and it was profitable for her to do this thing, glamping, whatever that she loved. But I don't have anything coming to my mind that's like, oh, if I just brand myself around this, that can be my niche. Like, what would you say to those people? And again, it connects to your process because you're reevaluating your own niche. Like, so how are you approaching this and how can other people strategically approach it?
Ooh, this is good. Okay. Well, kind of what you said. If I was that person trying to figure this out right now, as I am a little bit, is what do I like? What am I passionate about? If I picture the dream wedding that I want to work, what is that? Where is that? Like there's a planner, she while she lives in the US, she specializes in Italian weddings. And the reason she's so successful as a US based planner doing things in Italy is because her clients want to speak to an American planner. We have the same language. We
Mm,
work on the same time zones or pace of emailing back, right? In Italy, it's a little bit slower. She doesn't take vacation in the summer. Like there's so many things that made it worth it to have a US based planner that would travel to Italy to do all these weddings. And so I think, okay, that person, that means they love to travel. They're passionate about the Italian culture. They love pasta, whatever you wanted to call. Um, but you could really kind of niche into anything that you are passionate about. And I think you're exactly right. As long as you are showcasing how great you feel when you're working these weddings or how your clients are interacting with you and how it's just you're jiving with them and everything that's happening on that wedding day, you're going to attract more of the same. And I've been reading that like Gen Z really wants to connect with
yeah.
their planner. It's very important to them that it's not just like a company that they're working
Mm,
with, that they are in fact, there's a relationship, a personality fit. So, I mean, think of all the personalities that exist out there. That could be anybody and anything. Um, yeah, I almost feel like more than ever, it would be easier to niche down because of just being uniquely you, and finding out what you're passionate about. And the thing is, you won't get it right off the bat. Like from 2010 to 2016, I was testing. I was doing a little bit of everything. I knew
Mhm.
I liked the great outdoors, but that was the extent of my knowledge of what I could do until this client landed for me. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. Like, this is it. And you'll get that feeling. So even thinking back to past weddings and dissecting each one of them, what did you like about that one that made you feel your best? Or what did you like about that couple? Was it the personality? Was it an aesthetic? Was it the location? A culture? Something like that. That's where I would start.
It's really powerful and so cool to bring it back to this notion of leaning into your own joy and leaning into your own individuality and what makes you you. Yeah, it's funny, Gabby. I'm watching the time just fly like it has wings, and there is definitely another question that I want to get to. And I ask this of every guest that we have. Um, Based on all of your personal and professional experience, Gabby, if you could give one piece of advice to our listeners that would help them as much as possible in building, toward their professional dreams, what piece of advice would you share?
Okay, so when your team reached out and told me, like, we didn't even talk ahead of time about what we were going to talk about
Right,
today. Like, that we talked about
right.
this an hour ago before we started
That's right.
recording, but your team did send out this question. But I almost feel like I want to change my answer based off of the conversation we had, because originally I wanted to say, which is still very aligned, but I wanted to say more so kind of a reminder to everybody in this industry or getting into this industry, which is we are in this industry because we enjoy hospitality. We um, are caretakers in a way. We are people pleasers. But, and this is maybe where I go into my new thing, it doesn't mean that you have to um, drain yourself. You don't have to constantly be over pleasing. I think boundaries are really important from the beginning. And I wish I had implemented those way sooner in my business, not just for my clients, but like we talked about today, for the team, and setting your expectations. Like, what do you want your business to look like for you? Stop thinking about everybody else. What do you want it to look like for you? When you picture yourself growing it 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, maybe you retire after 15 years and that's okay. But how does it feel as you go in there? You shouldn't want it to feel stressful. You shouldn't want it to, um, feel depleting or reach a burnout. You don't want to exit the industry because of burnout. You want to end on a high note. So really taking the time, if you're just getting into this or if you're in it now, to stop for a second, have those hard conversations if those need to happen. Think about what you want this to feel like for you. How much money do you want to make? And not to think of it selfishly, but think about it. It's a necessity. You need to have these numbers figured out, and for you to put your oxygen mask on first. I really think that's the most important thing.
Gabby, yeah, this is really a pleasure. I feel, mission accomplished in terms of what I want to do every time I log on to record one of these interviews, which is to be a conduit for experience and advice that can really help people. And yeah, these bases that we've covered are just so important. This notion of taking care of yourself as the owner and sustainer of your business. Um, if there are people who maybe want to reach out to you, Gabby, what is the best way for people to get in touch?
Yeah, I'm pretty active on Instagram. My kind of wedding pro to wedding pro, like my B2B account is called at Gabby Pinkerton. And I also have a YouTube channel that I post on. I have a new video every week, and I have some member only videos. And actually, today's situation, like I mentioned, I talk about that in depth, and I share my P&L in my members only video because I was like, I want you guys to see the real numbers of what it is to run a business and why it says negative $7,000 at the end of it. So I had this deep conversation with my members over there. But yeah, come find me on YouTube. It's also at Gabby Pinkerton, Instagram at Gabby Pinkerton, or my wedding page is at 'Cause We Can Events.
Well, Gabby, on behalf of our Timeline Genius community and all of our Wedding Industry Insider podcast listeners, I just want to say thank you, obviously, for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to do this interview, but also, again, for showing up and being just so transparent and open. Like, it's really been a pleasure interviewing you.
Oh, it's been a blast. You're such an amazing interviewer, Eddie. We should, if you lived closer, we would go grab lunch or something and hang out. I
We
think
sure
there's so
would.
much more we could talk about.
Agreed, Gabby. Thank you.